Speaking of underground temples, is that where you want me to start?
I mean, I don't.
I love that. That's going to be a little snippet for our patrons.
Yeah, so if you guys are subbed to the Patreon, that's going to be something for you guys over there. But, also, Twilight of the Apprentice, Part 1 and 2. If you guys want to follow along with this week's episode, go watch that. That is the season finale of Star Wars Rebels, Season 2.
Thank you, brother.
Go for it.
We're going to be talking about Sith temples today, and talking about underground temples. I don't feel like we covered the Necrons in Space Marine 2 enough. You saw the thumbnail and title. This is a Star Wars video, but I promise this is topical. When we visit the planet of Tomb World of Demirium in the final act of the campaign, we discover that below the surface, the planet is hollow and is more than just a resting place for interred Space Marines, but is actually a Necron tomb world. It's one of the most visually spectacular parts of the game. The environmental artists for this game deserve a pat on the back because everything about Space Marine 2 is really pretty. Personally, I hope we get to fight some Necrons in future updates, but I'm not holding my breath. Y'all want Star Wars? We got Star Wars.
In 2019, with the release of The Rise of Skywalker, I'm not going to do that, came the Companion Compendium. Okay, 2019, Companion Compendium that some Star Wars readers might be familiar with, the Visual Dictionary. I loved these books growing up. Couldn't get enough of them. We would check them out at the library. So good. These books offer a deep dive into the world of Star Wars and were some of the reasons that we are the two dorks sitting before you today. We would do whatever we could do to get our hands on these as kids, either as birthday presents to furiously ripping through the pages before we to return them to our local library.
Episode 9, likewise, has its own VD and gave us some tidbits of knowledge above and beyond that of just events, characters, and technology of the first installment of the Skywalker saga. Almost 3 years prior, March 30th, 2016, the two-part season finale of Star Wars Rebels Season 2 aired and revealed to us a massive structure built by a Sith Lord forgotten to time. We are here to answer the question of who built this massive underground pyramid, what its purpose was, and to speculate wildly about its original fate.
Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
And we are twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and give colorful commentary on our favorite subjects. Welcome to our cantina. Grab a drink and settle in as we set course for realities beyond our own. Cheers, brother.
Cheers, brother. Welcome everybody to episode 110. It feels like it's going by so quickly. Last week was episode 109, and I'm pretty sure I said that it was 108. So if you are confused by what episode it actually is, that is my bad. Today's recording date is April 8th, and this episode will be released on Monday, April 14th. Today, we will be discussing Rebels, the TV show. If you want to watch along, pause this episode, pull up Season 2, Episode 21 and 22, Twilight of the Apprentice, Andrew had previously mentioned.
Indeed. Also, the reason that everything was labeled, and we said that last week's episode was episode 108, is because I wrote it incorrectly. Over and over and over again. It wasn't until the moment I scheduled the update that I go, that's wrong. And I had to go back through everything and change it. So that was fun. I'm a professional, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for making it this far in the episode. Make sure to give us a like, comment, and subscribe down in the comments. Let us know your favorite bit of Star Wars lore. The best one we will pin on our YouTube page.
We might even talk about it in more detail, so we'd love to hear from you more. We are going to be first discussing who made the temple. Ooh. Now, we're going to officially... I think I had messaged you on Discord, and I said we should take a film theory approach to this, because film theory does an absolutely fantastic job at discussing media seen in TV and in movies, and breaks it down, and highlights different inconsistencies. And so I think that we're going to bring some of that spirit with us here today. According to the official sources, i.e. The Rise of Skywalker, Visual Dictionary written by Pablo Hidalgo, revealed to us that the structure is the temple, a ziggurat, a landing spot for the Goa'uld. Maybe, if you understand that reference, take some ibuprofen for your back. Anyways, this building clearly has more uses than just being dark, foreboding, and although it is totally nailing it. The whole vibe of this place is spooky as heck, and it makes me so excited for Halloween. If you guys don't know, I run a Halloween themed Orcs army in 40k, so we're all about it here. In that glorious picture book, the Rise of Skywalker Visual Dictionary, Hidalgo leaves us a crumb, a speck of knowledge as to who the great builder of this construct actually was. Pablo Hidalgo is often referred to as the Star Wars Story Group lore advisor. Say that 10 times fast, please.
No.
Absolutely not. If there was a real life holocron, then this man would be the keeper of it. He himself would know the key to unlock this ancient secret.
This is classic Star Wars, after all. A super old building that was built by a super old departed Sith that was discovered by our present heroes, and now they have to save the world and or / universe by bringing down the house on top of this ancient weapon of mass destruction. Malachor has WMDs! That was way more funny in my head.
Me thinking this podcast is about to get really problematic. Two white guys say problematic things on the internet again.
You know what's a great punchline? The invasion of Iraq. Didn't think that one through. With all that buildup, all that anticipation, Hidalgo, must have picked a truly epic Sith to create this ancient marvel worthy of even late-night History Channel viewers. Aliens. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Sith Lord responsible for creating the Malachor Sith Temple, Sith superweapon, was none other than Darth Tannis.
Who?
Who?
Ooh. Darth Tannis, you know Darth. Let me see. No, that's not it. That tab doesn't have it. Going through all of my notes. Yeah, Darth Tannis, the dude who, let's check old reliable Wikipedia. Okay, I'm sure I've heard his name before. No, not Tantis, not Terrace. Oh my god. Okay. Okay. The biography on this one is only a paragraph long. It's not great.
Can you read it for us real quick?
Yeah, the superweapon architect, Darth Tannis, was an ancient Sith Lord who created the superweapon within the Sith Temple on the Sith planet of Malachor. Ancient Sith accounts from 3966 BBY described Kyber weaponry developed by Tannis on the planet Malachor. This was the Malachor superweapon, a deadly machinery that laid at the heart of the Malachor Sith Temple, a battle station and site of contest with the Jedi, which ultimately led to the Great Scourge of Malachor, where all combatants perished at the activation of the superweapon, including a Sith witch from the Sith Empire. That was like 7 sentences that all said the exact same thing.
It was the Sith who made the Sith who made the Sith thing to do the Sith stuff.
You know what? I think we should give credit to the flavor text writers of the Star Wars Rebel episodes, because the 7 words that they usually use to describe each episode over on Disney Plus could have told us the exact same thing.
Yep. Wow. Yeah, you're 100% correct. Scientifically speaking, this biography is certifiably lame. Right? The official canon of this massive structure, it was built by the person who built it. A person that the Disney Story Group made up so that we can name the person who built it. That's their only purpose. It's
pretty wild.
It's so stupid.
Well, I would like to firmly talk out of my own ass here and let all the viewers know that we here at Talk About Tatooine cannot abide such an explanation, and I think we have a very strong lead as to who actually built the temple. That's right, this is a film theory. The biggest tip-off that this piece of lore, if you want to call it that, was a bunch of crap, was the fact that the timestamps don't match the mechanisms of the temple. Let's explain.
I feel like that is like classic film theory. They're like, oh, this thing that they have said as part of the story, yeah, that's wrong. So canonically, pushes glasses up, the temple was built almost 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. Not so randomly, I want to point out that Darth Bane, established the rule of 2 around 1032 BBY. I mean, not around. During 1032 BBY. That's actually pretty specific. Just keep that in your head for a moment. Now, if you recall from the beginning of part 1, before the gang uncovers Maul's true identity, Ezra discovers him walking around the temple trying to gain access. We can safely assume that Maul has been wandering the temple for quite some time and has been studying its entrances and outer structure. During his scouting of the temple, he realizes that it takes two, not the video game, but sort of like the co-op game.
I would like to say that Ezra Bridger's Stranger Danger game crumpled way too quickly in this episode, just saying. The unique feature of this temple is that it can only be accessed by a master and apprentice. This detail, however minor, we believe breaks open the entire theory and proves its validity. Why a master and apprentice, you might ask? From the Jedi's point of view, you're all liars. That all makes sense. This is a classic structure that the Jedi have been trained and tutored under the millennia, but the Sith, they do not share the same history.
The Sith have a past that can be described as significantly more chaotic and murdery than that of the Jedi. During their ages-long conflict with the Jedi, the classification of Sith could be described as the person at the top and then everyone else. Let's unpack that a little bit. Internally, the Sith have been playing a game of King of the Hill, like with laser swords, with friendly fire turned all the way up, and while at the same time trying to fight the Jedi. Anytime they achieve any sort of victory against the Jedi is when they momentarily are distracted from fighting one another to focus on their true enemy. Oh, it's actually a little frustrating.
This pattern continued over and over again, and according to Darth Bane's doctrine, diluted the lines of the Sith as more and more masters rose up not from true conquest of one another, but through multiple lesser Sith pledging temporary allegiance to fell a stronger opponent. Then, when the Lord of the Sith was dead and gone, the alliance would quickly crumble. They would fight amongst themselves, and the last woman or man standing would be less powerful than the person that came before them.
This pattern had to end. It had to stop, or the Sith would be driven into extinction. Bane saw it. It was written on the walls, and it also was written in the tomes the Lord of his time were too lazy to read themselves. So, what did he do? Bane organized the downfall of the Sith so that he could rebuild it from the ground up. Please reference our 3-part Bane series, episodes 100, 101, and 102, respectively. With this, he instituted the rule of two, which can be stated very simply. 2 there should be. No more, no less. One to embody the power, the other to crave it.
Dear audience, sweet, handsome, scrumptious audience, why would Darth Tanis design a temple embedded with a doctrine that wouldn't arrive for another 2,000 years? I would argue they wouldn't.
Who actually created the temple? Remember how we said that the actual canon explanation is total hooey? It is, and we're going to tell you who we think. Our first clue being that it seems to be designed by a rule of 2 era Sith. This narrows the list down considerably. There are tons of Sith in the history, and there's only a fraction of those that fall under the lineage of Bane. I mean, we're talking less than a dozen candidates, most of which have actually appeared in live-action Star Wars projects. Whispers conspiratorially, the operative word being most.
The second clue we are gifted with is perhaps a miniature version of the temple itself, the holocron. Sith holocrons, unlike their cubed Jedi counterparts, are 3-sided or sometimes 4-sided pyramids. In this case, actually, the holocron had 3 sides. Good pickup, by the way, brother. Regardless, each holocron is programmed or enchanted, whatever you want to call it, with a simulacrum. Am I saying that word correctly? Simulacrum? Simulacrum?
I say simulacrum, but simulacrum also sounds correct. So go for it.
As he internally doubts his own command of the English language. So it is enchanted with the simulacrum of the person who made it. Darth Bane himself spends quite a bit of time constructing his own holocron and considers it an art form critical to the preservation of the Sith.
Back to the present, when Ezra opens the holocron and listens to its voice, the avatar of that holocron is distinctly female. We do not see an actual simulacrum of whose voice is actually speaking. I should note that we don't know whether or not Darth Tanis was male or female, and the wiki itself uses gender-neutral pronouns when describing the long-lost Sith Lord. Again, we have already ruled out Darth Tanis for reasons being, one, Darth Tanis didn't exist during the Rule of Two, and two, it'd be cooler if it was someone else. All right.
I had 3 different people in mind and narrowed this list down quite quickly because the voice that emanates from the holocron is female. Sorry for the awkward pause. Forgot how to read for a second.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
Nailed it. Okay, so this leads us to believe that the first guess would be Belia Darzu. Let me know in the comments if I said that incorrectly, because I'm apparently on a hot streak right now.
You are. You're like 0 for 3.
The audiobook narrator for the Darth Bane books pronounces it Belia Darzu.
Okay, cool.
I hate the way I sound too. I hate it.
The audience is going to love it. Keep it in. All right, so Darzu is a Sith alchemist who made flesh machines. Cool, I guess we're going to put the explicit tag on this one, using dark side nanotech. She would have the mechanical know-how to create such a large weapon. Okay, however, Darzu was there and back again on this mortal plane before Bane came around, so simply she did, and her legacy was on another planet, Typhon, damn it!
0 for 4. Who's
Typhon,
counting?
where the temple slash keep slash fortress was filled with the remnants of her techno beasts.
Techno beasts.
More like techno beats, am I right?
And then they tried to eat Bane, and he slaughtered them all really easily because they were super old robots. Anyway, that's not why we're here. My second thought. We have actually merged consciousness at this point. I'm using a singular pronoun, but it is both of our minds. My second thought was Darth Treya, since she was involved in the first Malachor disaster in Legends. But again, she did not subscribe to the Rule of Two, nor was she around for its conception.
The device shown in Star Wars Rebels is never referred to as the mass shadow generator in KOTOR 2. We talk about Revan, Malak, Treya, Scion, and Nihilus, and Mitra, Surik, all in previous episodes. Please go check those out here, guys. We refer to the mass shadow generator much more in those episodes. So please go back and listen to those. We're not going to go over it in detail. But we learn that Bao-Dur created the device and is not powered by a holocron. He's a techie, not a space wizard. I think later he can unlock the Force, but still the order of events doesn't really track his involvement in the events we see in Rebels. Anyways, therefore we are confident it is not Treya. The hag is out.
This leads us to believe that the only other person who could have constructed and used such a device was Darth Zana. After her alleged triumph over Bane, I'm still on Team Zana, by the way, if you guys know what I'm talking about at the end of Book 3, 100% Team Zana. His knowledge would become hers. Additionally, many of the challenges and traps in the Sith Temple were designed to be overcome by a master and apprentice, so it had to be a Rule of Two era Sith. That's the whole reason Maul needed Ezra. I don't need a tinfoil hat. It makes sense.
What the hell happened here? So, sounds like you've got ghosts in your blood. You better do some spice about it. Hilarious sci-fi drug references aside, the temple is not a pretty sight. As Ezra gets closer to the temple, he encounters some interesting things, including the petrified remains of many Jedi, and we know that they are Jedi because Ezra is shown picking up one of their very old lightsabers, turning it on, and it fizzles out. And he even comments, he's like, the Jedi won, right? And Kanan's like, did they though?
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that. Unpopular opinion. crossguard lightsabers. I don't know why I said this is literally scripted. Come on, dude. Unpopular
He
opinion.
gets it.
I'm keeping that in. Unpopular opinion. Crossguard lightsabers are cool, and I am way into them. Not gross. One of my favorite lightsaber forms / stances in the second Jedi game was like the Claymore style, the heavy two-handed approach of the crossguard saber. Well, I guess sans crossguard. I think you actually can design it with a crossguard in Jedi 2, if I'm not mistaken. It's why I love characters like Balin Skull and Darth Vader, because they're like walking tanks who just swing for the fences without losing their balance or composure. Dark side, demure, some might say.
But there are tons of dead Jedi here, which leads us to believe that the temple itself was the cause of their death. From the wiki, we read, in fact, we know that the weapon has been fired because as our heroes approach the temple, they pass by the petrified remains of Sith and Jedi locked in an eternal struggle as husks of their former self. This was referred to as the Great Scourge of Malachor, to point out that the Jedi historians were wrong about Darth Tanis, about being the architect of the weapon. Maybe they were wrong about its function as well.
From my recollection, when the temple is activated, it blasts a huge hole in the layer of earth above it. If the weapon truly had been fired before, the hole would already be visible even after thousands of years had passed, and probably would have expanded to reveal the entire temple as time and erosion happened. Therefore, considering the temple has been hidden relatively well for quite a while, I think it's fair to make the assumption that the temple has not truly been activated.
Instead, a more likely outcome was that Darth Zana was discovered along with the location of the Malachor superweapon. The Jedi, perhaps learning from their mistake with previous Sith, sent a large detachment of Jedi to defeat the resurgent Sith. It was here that Zana hid her holocron in the depths of the temple, effectively keeping the key to activating the temple away from the Jedi. Outnumbered, Zana found herself with few options and delved into the mental tome of Sith sorcery. The Jedi surrounded the temple and began to scale its sides, believing that the key to defeating the unknown Dark Lord of the Sith lay at the top of the temple. Darth Zana stood atop the temple, alone but unfettered, and tapped into her magics.
Or Bane would have used lightning, Darth Zana played to her own strengths, just as her master taught her once before. Her spell caught the Jedi unaware as tendrils of black ichor rose up from the ground and ensnared the Jedi. Unlike the scything tendrils she used to amputate the various limbs of Bane in their legendary duel, these insidious appendages had a more sinister motive.
In her travels, Zana accumulated vast amounts of knowledge, not only of the dark side itself, but also the creatures, people, and species that grew up and evolved in conjunction with the Force. One such creature was the Shri Ka Rey, who, for a long time, have been lost to myths and legends. Ahsoka herself says there's always a bit of truth in legends. Zana would never lay eyes on the beast, but in her journey to become the most powerful being in the galaxy, she came across an account of a man who had no particular affinity to the Force, who witnessed the horror firsthand. He was not the victim, but the Jedi he traveled with was driven mad by its presence. Engulfed with fear, and then seemingly out of nowhere turned to stone, which seemed to crumble to pieces at the faintest touch. It was this power that Zana craved. She herself had learned to become one who devoured the Force, and it was this power she unleashed on the battalion of Jedi before her.
She pushed them back, but the Jedi were nimble and quick, and she lacked the native quality of the leveler to inflict that paralyzing fear on the Jedi. Her attempts to fight off the Jedi invaders became more and more desperate as they drew closer to her position at the top of the weapon. Unable to command the whole battlefield, Zana's concentration eventually misplaced a single Jedi Master who made a final attempt to stop the Sith Lord in her tracks.
Zana did the one thing she never does. She panicked. For a single instant, she threw her sorceress tentacles at the last Jedi Master from every direction, but before she could pull back, she realized he had gotten too close. The dark side does not care from whence the blood flows, you see. A single tendril bit into the flesh of Xana's side, and as it screamed towards the master. What had she done? The master before her was atomized by her onslaught, but now her own spell had sank its teeth into her body and began to consume her as well. Slowly, at first, her skin turned to rubble as it was encompassed by her own spell and her own hubris. Then, twice in a single day, Xana did something she never did. She felt fear. Fear spiked through her heart, and the stone spell consumed her in the blink of an eye.
The Jedi had won, and her weapon had gone unused against her mortal foil. In the official wiki, it states that the Jedi and the unidentified Sith witch all perished when the machine misfired. I think it's more likely that Xana went down in a blaze of glory. How could the machine have fired if the holocron to fire the machine was hidden in the depths of the pyramid, not to be found by the Jedi? If the machine had misfired, why wasn't Vader himself turned to stone when we actually see the temple misfire in the Rebels season finale?
No, it was Xana's witchcraft that felled those Jedi. After the conflict, the remaining Jedi left that place, left their dead and their lightsabers, and buried this malevolent secret so that no one else could find it. So much death had occurred in places like this that had been touched by the dark side were toxic, and Jedi could hardly stand the feeling of them, notable exceptions being Yoda and Luke during their first time on Dagobah.
No, the Jedi went back to their own temple, and in their arrogance buried this incident. At most, there would have been a quiet ceremony on Coruscant, honoring the fallen, only for this event to be erased from the Jedi archives for all time.
What was this Sith temple being used for? One notable feature of the temple was its weapon at the top of it. If a holocron was taken from the top of the temple and placed on the pedestal, the weapon could be used. The power system of the temple comes from a giant kyber crystal, always a lot of fun, and described as being able to, quote, destroy life. And as we see from the aftermath, it is one of the most brutal ways possible, according to the wiki, right? We have a more colorful, flavorful suggestion: tentacles.
Tentacles.
We can only speculate at the sheer terror breaking into the minds of the Jedi as they fought and died at the temple. Spooky AF.
Normally in Star Wars, and we hear a weapon powered by a big-ass kyber crystal, we think it is going to power a big-ass laser. Both the DS-1 and the DS-2 Death Star battle stations had massive stores of kyber crystals to power the massive energy weapon required to decimate entire worlds. We saw similar weapons in Legends on the Superstar Destroyer Eclipse, which was Palpatine's flagship, and then back in canon with Starkiller Base, which was rumored to be built on Ilum, a planet where kyber naturally grows. And then the First Order pattern Star Destroyers, or I should say, sorry, the Final Order pattern Star Destroyers, which featured miniaturized super lasers, which literally brought the Exterminatus into Star Wars. We weren't huge fans of the sequels, but when Big Ship Go Burr, we are interested.
Now, our final question we asked to ourselves: why didn't Ezra and company think a Sith temple was a big deal? They get there and they're kind of like, meh, we have an Inquisitor to catch. Time to enter into the area of opinion, not gospel. So if you think differently, again, please let us know, but don't be a dick about it, or do. It is fun trolling back at people in the comments that think they are oh so clever.
They never are.
They never are. If we refer to our question, why didn't the episode actually spend more time going into the detail of the Sith? Honestly, I don't think they had the time to spend on the extra exposition on an already fast-moving episode, which would have just increased the runtime. It was already a two-parter. They should have been worried about this place, and Kanan should have been the alarm here almost right away. Should have kind of been raising the red flag here. Now remember, Ezra's in a rough spot here. He goes through a lot of growth in the first few seasons and really doesn't know what it's like to be a Jedi. He has some inklings in certain moments, but again, none of those really stop him from entering the temple with Maul.
And I should point out at this point, Kanan and Ezra don't know their own history. Caleb Doom was his real name. he only grew up to be a Padawan, maybe what, 11? He was a child when he saw his master murdered in front of him and then had to go into hiding. He doesn't know his history. He doesn't know the ancient secrets of the Jedi, and certainly Ezra doesn't. Their main focus is the Empire, and anything to fight them would have just been another tool in their arsenal. Also, we as fans have a more omniscient point of view to Star Wars. We know more than all the characters do about the history of this universe than they do at any given time, because we're all nerds. This is our special interest groups. Unite! Seriously though, this is a huge galaxy, and many people in it have never heard of the Sith. Those who did know of the Jedi probably never met one. It reminds me a little bit of 40K. Space Marines were known about, but most people in the universe would never encountered them. And if you did, it probably wasn't a good thing. I mean, sort of the same thing with the Jedi, right? They're like, oh, wait, the Jedi here. This is great. Wait, the Jedi here. Something must be going really wrong. Oh, no.
Exactly. That brings us into our nerddom news. Last week, we really brought some grave tidings, as we were hoping this week's episode was a little better. April 19th, we should be getting an announcement from Bit Reactor and Respawn Entertainment on the new Star Wars game, which will allegedly be a turn-based tactical game. So far, we have already seen some familiar faces, or rather familiar helmets like Bo-Katan Kryze, who should be a playable character. Professionally speaking, the Lady of Mandalore can get it, respectfully. This is the part of Star Wars Celebration and the official screening if you happen to be there in person on Saturday, April 19th from 4:30 to 5:30 in Japan Standard Time, live on the Galaxy stage. For us watching on the Pacific Coast, that's like 12:30 a.m. Son of a bitch!
Speaking of Star Wars Celebration Japan, it has a huge lineup of events. There's kind of a lot of stuff going on. If you want to check that out, go to their website. It's mostly live screening of different episodes in movies, which honestly, I think that's really cool. They're re-releasing, I think, episode 3 in theaters next month. I need to get the date for that because I need to buy tickets. I want to see it. But Star Wars Celebration Japan is doing a lot of live screenings of different TV shows, like different finales of Andor and Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars, like the Siege of Mandalore. I'm like, do I want to buy a plane ticket just to watch Star Wars Rebels with a bunch of other nerds? Kind of.
A little bit.
A little bit. But I'm poor. Please support the podcast. But Star Wars Celebration Japan has a huge lineup of events, including an announcement about the Mandalorian and Grogu. Guys, when was the last time we had a Star Wars movie?
It's been a minute.
It's been 6 years, which okay. I know we're a little spoiled because when the prequels came out, it had been literal decades since we had a Star Wars movie. But then we've had Star Wars stuff pretty much nonstop since then. There was a little gap between episode 3 and episode 7. Again, the order is still so dumb, but I feel a little spoiled now. I'm but I need more movies, especially now that Star Wars is purchased by Disney, and that's their whole thing is making movies. So why don't we have more movies? Well, we're getting more movies, at least one, from 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Again, Japan Standard Time, live on the Celebration stage, also streamed to the Galaxy and Twin Suns stage. Join Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and special guests for a sneak peek at what's to come for The Mandalorian and Grogu on their biggest adventure yet, this time on the big screen and in theaters in 2026.
In other news, Space Marine 2, we are getting a Trigon update on April 15th. This also comes with new PvE elimination map against the Trigon, the Infernal Pistol, Imperial Fist Champion Pack, and the Space Wolves Cosmetics Pack.
In the world of Warhammer updates, we got some new models for the Emperors of Children. All my perverts, where are you at? And in a non-thirsty or depraved way, they look great. Emperor's Children players will finally be rewarded for their patience with a huge range refresh. just some highlights real quick. We already know that the Fulgrim Demon Primarch of Slanesh model is back in his snaky goodness. We got an updated Lucius the Eternal model. I think that's great. A Lord Cacophonist? I don't know how to pronounce
Like
that.
cacophony.
Cacophonist? That sounds right. That sounds, yeah, Cacophonist, Lord Cacophonist. Probably
Suck
the
it, people
leader.
who say Nathan's bad at the English language.
Hey, you got one. And then we also have a Lord Exultant. All of these models are absolutely gorgeous. Plus, they got a lot more infantry specialized to this Legion, special edition books, dice, data cards, all available for pre-order right now. Like right now, by the time we're recording this. So by the time you listen to it, pre-orders will have been open for several days. So if you're a fan of The Emperor's Children, you probably want to go to the website right now. Not a sponsor. Revel in the excess, my friends. Just close the door first.
To all you foot freaks out there, we are monitoring prices. No, I'm just kidding. We are monitoring prices on the GW website, but as of now, we haven't seen a hit from the 10% across the board tariff on or news. If another tariff will affect our little plastic crack habit, those tariffs technically should be going in effect tomorrow. So those at the time of this recording, they technically haven't gone up yet. Stay tuned, fellow addicts.
In Helldivers 2 news, the Meridian Black Hole ate another planet. If you guys are following what's going on in that game, the Squids or the Illuminate created we created a black hole, and they have just moved, like basically put it on a toe from where it was sitting towards Super Earth, and that's how they're going to destroy mankind. The traveling singularity has consumed Moradesh, Angel's Venture, and now Ivis. Only 3 more worlds stand between the black hole and Super Earth.
I have to say, I think it would be pretty funny if we lost. You have to believe that if we lose Earth, we just lose and they turn off the servers, right? I mean, that would be devastating, but also a little funny and certainly memorable. Fanatical compliance is mandatory. The Helldivers 2 board game is officially live on GameFound.com. Not a sponsor, but damn, it looks good.
Oh man! In other gaming news, Gears of War Emergence Day, or also known as E-Day, there's no news, but I actually kind of want to rant a little bit because Game Rant put out an article on April 5th, which is 3 days before we recorded this show, that says nothing other than Gears E-Day is a new Gears game. Marcus is the main character, and E-Day was preceded by Gears 5. Dude, fuck me, we already knew all that. Why would... so frustrating.
In the business, we call this sort of gaming journalism clickbait horse shit. It is a bowl of nothing soup. It tells me in no less 700 words, I counted, everything we learned with our eyeballs from the trailer that lasted 2 minutes and 17 seconds and came out 9 months ago. Essentially, let me scroll. These sites have to continually put out articles that say nothing to generate clicks, even though we have nothing new or substantive to say. It's just Game Rant. Tons of news sources do this. People are desperate for news and they prey on that.
That was supposed to say it's not just Game Rant.
Okay.
Like all news sources do this. They basically take the void in between when we actually get gaming news and they just recycle the same content with different clickbaity titles. And this one was especially clickbaity. It will actually be linked down in the description if you guys want to take a listen to it or take a read. It's not, there's no audio. You have to read it with your eyeballs. Sorry. But I was like a little mad. I was like, this didn't tell me anything. And now they got clicks out of me. Great.
To wrap it all up, huge thanks to our patrons, Mike, Isaac, David, Combrew, and all the folks over on our Discord server. Your continued support does mean a lot to us. As we mentioned earlier, we are both very poor, and the support means a lot. So if you can support us for $5 a month over on our Patreon, that would be awesome. It also helps us do more things like giveaway, gaming events, and higher quality content. It's due to your support we can make this happen. If you can't, please share this with a friend and leave a positive podcast review. You can also catch us on YouTube, getting that time in on YouTube helps quite a bit, and engaging with the videos, liking, comment, sharing, and subscribing. Seriously, all of that interaction boosts the video and the algorithm so that others can find us. Specifically, the podcast reviews. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or a different podcast player, please drop us a 5-star review. It has to be 5 stars. That actually pushes our ranking up, and it pushes our podcast to more people. So please consider doing that so we get recommended to others. Until next time, may the Force be with you.